Hello, welcome to a series of videos I'm calling Football 101. It concerns American football. My name's Theo, channel name is Dashric, and I'm a middle linebacker for the Hilversum Hurricanes in the Netherlands. I live in Amsterdam, and I've noticed a lot of people around Europe tend to not really understand this sport. So this series of videos is basically there to help educate on how this sport is run, because it is picking up steam in Europe, but it's not that popular yet. And for those of you who maybe want to try it out, this series of videos could help you kind of understand the sport a little bit better. Let's get into this video. We're going to be talking about something called special teams. This seems very strange, but there is technically a third section of football. There are two other videos that I've had called offense and defense, but there is a special teams, which is where a lot of specialists play. I'm probably going to be saying that word a lot in this. Okay, so there are kinds of special teams. Not everybody plays on every special teams. There are basically 5 different teams. There's kickoff, kickoff return, punt, punt return, and field goal. We're going to go over each of those, so be prepared. And I'm going to do a lot of diagramming for this video. So rather than in other videos where I've gone top to bottom, I'm going to be going left to right, so that it's a little easier to diagram that way. So let's go with pretty much the very start of an American football game after the coin toss. We are going to have your kickoff and your return. Okay, so I'm going to be using red and blue to signify the different teams. So with kickoff, you have a line of guys, 10 of them, 5 on one side, 5 on the other. They are not usually bunched up like this. They are usually spread out amongst the entire field. It's about 50 meters across. And then you're going to have, it's also not very straight with the board. You're also going to have your kicker right there, and your ball will be yards forward. At this point, there is another 11 people at the other side of the field, and they are There are another 11 people on that side of the field. The kicker kicks the ball this direction. More often than not, the returners will grab the ball and attempt to run the ball that way. These 10 people have the job of running this way to attempt to tackle the returner as far back that way as they can. And this is a pretty much an all-out brawl. Ball goes up, gets caught by a returner, can technically be caught by anybody, but typically with your good kicker, especially if they come from a football, soccer background, they're going to go pretty, because this is a stationary ball. So they're going to get it, and then these guys, this shield of 9 people, plus whichever returner doesn't actually do it, will run this way and try to block as many as you have. So you have a kicker and a returner, and those offset each other. And thus, you have 10 versus 10 in an all-out brawl to try to stop the returner from going that way or getting the returner to go further that direction. That's pretty much kickoff and kickoff return. Now, we're going to move on to punt. I'm going to skip ahead while I draw that up, but the rules are pretty similar. Okay, so now that we are at punt and return, you'll see similar rules as just like kickoff, but as you can see, the field is set up very differently. With your punt, now this is for pretty basic stuff. I've seen a lot of this come out of the NFL, but there are multiple different formations. My team uses a way that's done in the NCAA in the United States, and I know that some high schools have a slightly different approach to this. So We're going to go over this very basic one because this is how you're going to see it on the NFL a lot more often. There is a shield or a wall of guys here that are intended to block everyone here. The long snapper will hike the ball between his legs 15 yards all the way back to the punter. And the punter does a drop kick from his hand, from holding his hands, and he drops the ball, and much like Australian rules football, he just, or I think in rugby they can do it also, you just boot it just so far, and the ball will fly this way. The idea is that the ball isn't going nearly as far as it does during a kickoff, so your returner isn't nearly as far back. But the ball gets hiked, and then everybody here runs that way. And these guys are attempting to stop these guys from getting any further progress, so that this guy can run as far back this way as absolutely necessary. Again, very similar to kickoff. It's why there's a punt and a return. So these guys, their sole goal as gunners are to run straight at this guy. Usually you'll have designated players for that one. They're super fast and they're super squirrely. We use that one. I know the Germans aren't okay with saying squirrel, but you know what? It's just a fun thing to torture them with. But everybody runs, even the long snapper, after a while. There's a rule that the long snapper cannot be touched for a couple seconds after the hike of the ball because they are in an actually weirdly prone position. And we can go over that one another time. But that is a very specialist position for two teams, including the next one that's coming up. And so he has to hike the ball 15 yards, and the punter kicks it that direction. The returner tries to get it back this direction. And these will usually block these guys, because if these guys get through, they can actually jump and block the punt. So you need to block these guys for a little bit while the punt gets successfully off. Once that does, everybody runs this way to make sure this guy doesn't get any further than he possibly can. Perhaps run backwards. Okay, now we're going to go to the last set of special teams, which gets used twice, but again, they're basically the same thing. Okay, so we have the field goal team or the PAT team. This is designing the PAT, and you have, again, your long snapper throws it about 6 yards to the holder, who then puts the ball on the ground and pulls their hand away, and the place kicker, rather than a punter, kicks it through the uprights. When you're looking vertically down the field, the uprights are in a line, but there's basically two long poles. I mean, this is what the uprights look like. Very similar in rugby, so you got that. The goal with the PAT is to get the ball. The ball is snapped from 3 yards back, chucks it back to here, and then that ball gets kicked between these two poles. Again, point after touchdown. It's a PAT. That's that one. Now, for a field goal, most people that have a good kicker can do it anything under 30 yards until goal. And basically, that is a very crappy line of scrimmage. But this can be anywhere along the field, and you can have this, let's say it could be at 20 yards. So yes, this is not to scale anymore. But if you're at 20 yards, then the PAT, then your field goal will have to go through the uprights, but from 20 yards away. Now the reason why is but it's pretty far back because the uprights are at the back side of the end zone, so you have to kick it another 10 yards than just the goal line. It's a bit confusing, I know, but that's pretty much special teams, the specialist players, and a bit on how to score. There's another video about all the various scores and how they happen. So I hope you guys had a great time watching this video, and hopefully my handwriting and diagrams worked pretty well. Catch you later. If you have any questions, comment below. I'll keep making more videos as long as people have questions that aren't necessarily answered in other videos. Bye!